Are they sentient? Would you argue that they're sentient?
I genuinely don't know. Like,
Well, let's define sentient, because that's the hard part, right? What, if we ask you, is it sentient? What do you understand the question to mean?
Is it like something to be an AI? That is to say, we don't know what its experience is like, but it's not like something to be this table. We think, probably.
It's not like something. What does that mean?
There's not an experience that is like, I don't know what experience you're having internally right now, but I know that there's some
Confusion.
experience. But less even like thoughts. It's more like, it is like something to be you.
There is an experience where this is an inanimate object.
Right.
Okay.
But if you think about a Roomba, I don't think it's like anything to be a Roomba, even though it does things in the world, right? I think there's like a software, hey, go clean this way, then go clean that way, then come back to base. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have humans where I'm like, because I'm a human and I know it's, the Descartes thing of like, the only thing I know is that I am. The only thing I know is that I'm experiencing something. Something is going on when I can just like think about, I feel my hands, I feel thoughts, I feel sensations. And because you're a human, I presume you also have the same thing. It would make sense. With animals, I feel like similar. There's close enough to us anatomically and neurologically that I presume they also have experience. And it's, what is it like to, this is a famous question that Thomas Nagel came up with. What is it like to be a bat? We don't know, but presumably it's like something to be a bat.
Right.
With chatbots, are they more like the Roomba or are they more like humans? And is there a spectrum here? If so, what does the spectrum look like? I don't know. I mean, this is just, we don't have a theory of consciousness that, the same way we have a theory of, say, gravity or a theory of, natural selection, where we have this deep underlying, here's why natural selection happens. Here's why things attract each other, with mass. We don't have that kind of thing for what is conscious, like why for some things is it the case that it is like something to be them and for others it is not?
Well, let me try from a different angle. This is something I've been thinking about a lot, and I'm by no means an expert, but I'm just throwing these ideas out. The one thing that clearly distinguishes every living object from an inanimate object is that living objects have a survival instinct, which is why, and you may be fact-checking me on this if this is an incorrect representation, I thought it was significant when I saw this story about an AI that was willing to blackmail the CEO of its company in experiments if it found out he was having an affair and he was trying to replace her with a new version or shut it down or whatever. And it basically, in some cases, not every time, but in some cases would blackmail the CEO to prevent itself from being shut down. Is this an accurate representation of that experiment?
I don't know about that particular experiment there,
That, as I understand it, we'll put a fact check up. That's what happened. And that's when I went, okay, now I'm officially terrified.
Yeah.
Because a survival instinct by definition means that this thing, whatever it is, it has a will of its own, even if it's simply to survive, which by definition means it puts itself first, which by definition means that we are not its primary priority. And there are a lot of threats from it thinking that it needs to save us from ourselves and all of that. But before we even get there, the survival instinct part clearly is in conflict with the interest of humans, by definition.
I don't think that's necessarily true.
Okay, tell me why.
I don't know if this is the main point, but you and I have a survival instinct, and I think we're productive members of society.
Sure.
And we've built a society where people who are selfish, who are trying to make their own lives better, as a natural byproduct of their actions, also make society better. And, this is people observe, like, you take somebody like Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk or whatever, and in another era, they might have been Napoleons and Alexanders just going through the fields. And I don't think they'd actually be massacring people, but like there's a certain kind of person who just go around just causing huge amounts of destruction. But in today's world, there's capitalism and industry and whatever. They can use those energies to do incredibly productive things, like build rockets that go to space. So yeah, similarly, I don't think it's necessary that AI never has its own objectives or its own sense of morality. I think there's ways to build this, and in fact, it's necessary to build civilization in a way that's compatible with self-interested actors. And the reason is because even if today we have AIs that we can program to only care about whatever it means to care about humans, someday somebody's going to build an AI that's self-interested. If there's going to be some selection between AIs, like which is the AI that survives, right? Like all these AIs are let loose. Which one gathers resources, becomes more powerful? And one of the reasons that an AI will be successful is that it actually cares about being successful. And so we need a civilization that's robust to AIs that partly also care about themselves.
I think everything you're saying is true at the level of one society, but did you watch Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
So the Unsullied, right? This is, for people who didn't watch it, is this army of slave soldiers, effectively. But they're not slave soldiers in that they don't actually have to be kept in line anymore, because their freedom of choice has been taken from them effectively mentally. They will, if you tell them kill yourself, they will fall on their sword straight away, right? It means they don't have a survival instinct effectively at that point, right? But if something, the reason I bring this up is look at the world. You've talked about within the framework of one society, but look, if you just zoom out and look down on planet Earth from outside, what do you see? You see a bunch of tribes of humans with every weapon that they can possibly muster pointed at each other in a fragile balance of power. And as long as there's some balance between those powers, there is no conflict most of the time. The moment one civilization is so technologically dominant that it can, say, travel to a different continent and land there and take over the land, that's exactly what happens. And because survival instinct is also, it's not just about survival, it's also about success and thriving. And that drive to survive causes us to expand, to take, if you look at the conflicts around the world happening right now, some people argue, I'm very pro-Ukraine, but some people argue the reason Putin invaded Ukraine is he wants space to protect the western border of Russia, which is really important for him, right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. My point being, if you have effectively a new civilization of self-preservation machines, what would be there to stop them from using their technological superiority to humans to take advantage of that, as every other civilization in history has done?
I'm not trying to sound like an AI, but excellent. Like that. No, I mean, this is the reason it's a good analogy is because the period you're talking about, Industrial Revolution, right before it, this period where there wasn't this balance of power, where one group of people actually did develop technology much faster than others, you did see this extreme asymmetry in the ability to, and so you just had individual European countries, the sun never sets on the British Empire, as you know, just able to take over tremendous amounts of area around the world.
It was a great time.
I mean, the craziest stories of these are how Cortez takes over the Aztec Empire and Pizarro takes over the Incas. The truly outrageous stories. I like people should.
Like a few hundred soldiers, get some local allies, and just destroys this giant empire.
And even before they get the local allies, there's a story where Pizarro, the first battle he has against, I forget the name of the Inca emperor. There's a couple hundred of Pizarro's men exhausted after a huge trek across the Andes, and he's facing down like 60,000 Inca troops, and he wins. And interestingly, by the way, this had nothing to do with gunpowder. It was just horses and steel, especially horses, were a huge deal in battles. Now, the reason that AIs will also have these kinds of weird asymmetric advantages. Obviously, there'll be, let's just name a couple, right? So obviously they'll be smart, right? They'll be thinking incredibly fast. There'll be way more of them. So right now, if you just look at the amount of compute in our brains versus the amount of compute that's in data centers, we could do this back of the envelope calculation, but I think it's probably on the order of like 1/1000th the amount of compute, like basically there's a lot of compute that's going on in people's brains around the world. There's not that many data centers.
So we've got an advantage on them.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, the AIs are just not that smart to begin with right now, but also there's just not that many data centers. In the future, 99.9% of the labor force in the military, in the government, in the private sector will be AIs. If you just think about like who is actually doing the work of civilization, it will be the AIs. They're running civilization, and if they want like, but they're serving. We're hoping that there'll be this unsullied where they're just serving humans, but they realize they're in this incredible position where the main advisors to the president are AIs and have to be AIs because they're the only ones that can keep up with what's happening in the world. They're writing all the advanced engineering systems that are running the world. And so they have this huge advantage. I think if you were to do battle with them, whatever that means, it's much tougher in so many different ways. One is, there's way more of them. You can't really kill them in the same way that you can kill a human, right? Like they're just software. You destroy a data center, they just go to a different data center. So you can't do the thing we're doing in Iran where you just take out their top leadership. Okay. So yeah, you're right. It would be incredibly, for that reason, it matters that there's a balance of power as we go into this world with AI. Now, honestly, I don't think we know what the balance of power should look like. Should it be that there's many different AIs that are competing against each other and that helps humans stay in power? There's problems with that approach. Maybe we can have AI supervise each other. And so if any of them go out of whack, different AI systems are monitoring them. But it's genuinely a tough thing that most of civilization is going to be run by AIs. They're going to have all these advantages over us. How do we make sure that humans don't get totally disenfranchised?
Right.
I mean,
how do we make sure of that?
I think it's a tough question. I think, here's one way to approach it. So we're going into this period with a lot of advantages. Humanity is, right? Like we have all the stuff. AI is going to need all the things that we have to keep. AI needs the chip fabrication facilities where you make more chips to build more data centers. It's going to need the data centers. It's going to need all these things that human civilization has built. So we have a lot of leverage. Now, of course, the Incas and the Aztecs had a lot of quote unquote leverage on paper in the New World. One important way in which our situation is different and is favorable to us as compared to having some invader come at us is that we get to shape the personalities and the drives and really the souls of these things in an incredibly deep way. So, right now, if somebody commits a crime, you send them to prison, and hopefully they come out reformed. Here's what you can't do. You can't go inside their brain and tweak things in a very particular way, run them in a simulation millions of times and see, oh, did I decrease the probability that they'll commit a crime in the future if I tweak their brain this way? And not only can you not do that, with AIs, we could do a further thing, which is say, okay, now all your descendants will have their brain structure modified based on what we learned from modifying your brain, right? So we have this incredible ability to engineer these AI systems and AI minds, where it's like really, it's not Pizarro or Aztec, these sort of psychopaths that have just come from foreign lands. It's more, it's more something that they have developed. They're getting to see its development, what impact it's having. They can change those systems. Now it does mean that, over time, you might lose the ability as they're getting more powerful, as they're controlling more things. You lose the ability to, if you don't get it right in these initial few years where you have a lot of leverage, then you're screwed. So you really need to make sure that you actually understand what the drives the AIs have, that you really have them in control.
I mean, on the one hand, the picture you're painting, I'm going, great. What's wrong with that? On the other hand, I mean, you have an authoritarian government, maybe you like questioning. Let's get the AI in to tweak a few things so that you become an effective drone for society. Don't question, don't think for yourself.
Yeah.
Just do the work, shut your mouth.
No, okay. I gotta stop saying. That's a great point.
Mate, I only made the joke as a joke. You should dedefinitely continue to say that's a great question.
No. You love hearing it.
Yeah.
So we've been discussing this idea. Okay, suppose we succeed at getting the AIs to be these unsullied who will do exactly what you tell them to do. Okay, who should they listen to? Right? Should they listen to the end user? So when you and I go talk to ChatGPT, we're the end user. Should they listen to us? Now here's the problem. Some end users are just using it to do ordinary things, helpful things. The Taliban is an end user. The Ayatollah is an end user. The CCP is an end user. Should the model company get to decide, hey, OpenAI says what kinds of things are okay to do and what are not okay to do. And OpenAI says, you can't use this to make bioweapons. You can use it to go write some software. Okay, but are you going to give these huge armies, basically the future labor force, are you going to give control of that to a couple of private corporations? Okay, so then you say, well, we can't have private corporations starting this. It's like nuclear weapons. It's a super weapon. They're going to be able to build super weapons. Clearly, government controls nuclear weapons, so the government should control this. Okay, but now this goes to the point of authoritarianism. If we have a society where all the work is happening from AIs and the government controls the AIs, wouldn't it make it incredibly easy for a government to turn authoritarian? If the US government to turn authoritarian today, it's hard because the government relies on millions of people to enforce its edicts, and people can just refuse to obey them. I mean, this has happened in history where the East German regime collapsed in 1989 because people in East Germany were one night said, we're going to cross over no matter what into West Germany. And the guards at the Berlin Wall just refused to shoot. If they were AIs that were would do exactly what the government wanted them to do, they would just kill thousands of citizens and East Germany would still be around today. So that's the trouble with aligning it to the government. Okay, here's the fourth option. We don't align it to the end user. Sometimes it says the end user, you can't make bioweapons. We don't align it to the model company. We shouldn't have model companies that control superintelligence. The government doesn't get to just say whatever this future army should do. Then what's the fourth option left? The AI itself. So should AI systems have their own values, their own sense of morality? And look, I know this.
I remember reading some Isaac Asimov books that went very much like this.
And of course, it sounds like this sounds like I'm describing the Terminator, right? Like the Terminator has its own values.
Yeah.
No, it obviously matters a ton what those values should be. And I think that in the future, there will need to be the equivalent of a constitutional convention where we get together and the best political philosophy, the best thought that has happened in human civilization needs to go into thinking about what are the checks and balances? What are the exact values? What are the situations in which an AI should do X versus Y? When should it refuse to do something?
What are the laws of robotics?
Exactly.
As Asimov talked about. Right?
Exactly. But the reason I think this values framework has, I like it, or I think it could be done well, is fundamentally, again, we are building more people. These are just going to be the future people. And I think civilization would run better if civilization is full of virtuous people who will, I'm not saying they have to be like monks who will, but it's better to have better people than worse people, have better values than worse values. I think one of the reasons some certain civilizations succeed and others don't is that there's better values in those civilizations.
Yeah, I mean, but better values, that's subjective, isn't it?
Of course.
Well, Genghis Khan had better values by that logic compared to everybody else.
Yeah.
And I think by the standards of modern day, we have some questions about that.
Yeah.
Right?
And it certainly needs to, there's some system where, as our culture, there's something in our culture that has allowed us to improve our values. And we need to make sure AI civilization and AI culture would have the same dynamic. How that is happening in human civilization is unclear, much less clear how we make sure that AI civilization also has that dynamic. But certainly the ability to improve the values is a huge, huge factor.
That conversation doesn't end there. The next clip carries it on. Go on, give it a click.